Bonnie Dango from Elephant Revival, thanks for joining me. This is your first proper trip to the UK, and I believe that we're talking before your first proper gig in England.
Yes, that's right.
And part of your visit over here is to promote your latest album, These Changing Skies, which came out in the States last year. And you chose to record at Bear Creek Studios near Seattle. Mm-hmm. It's got quite a pedigree, that place, hasn't it?
Yeah, the producer's assistant named Jerry was so kind, and his comment was, the music just breathes through the walls here, just with the amount of people that have recorded there, and Eric Clapton and
Brandy Carlile,
Soundgarden, if you're into the 90s sort of grunge thing going on. The Lumineers are the most recent, to come out with the big hit from the studio.
And what did you find at a venue like that? Was it inspiring in terms of songwriting, creating music, or did you go there with all your songs intact for the album?
Most of the songs were intact, but a couple of them came through there. Dango had written an instrumental that you introduced to us there.
Yeah, there is one off the new album. There's a couple songs off the new album that did come together there. Be it Birds and Stars and The Pasture are the two that come to mind. And I just got an email that they're looking to potentially use The Pasture on a TV show called Treehouse Masters that's on Animal Planet because they just expanded their studio and built a treehouse portion of the studio ground.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be interesting for one to see the treehouse studio because that sounds amazing, and to see if the music comes through.
You're all sort of multi-instrumentalists, so the textures in your songs vary considerably, but I believe it was last year that harmonic texture took to a completely different level when you performed with an orchestra. Can you tell me a little bit about how that came together and the actual experience of performing with them?
It was incredible. It was an incredible experience, and it came together with the Colorado Music Festival out of Boulder. Orchestra musicians, symphony musicians from all around the States, and some from internationally. And they all get together every summer, and this summer they're doing the mashup series, so they chose a few artists to mash up with, and we created 9 orchestral charts with the help of our friends, and had a couple rehearsals, and played the event in the Chautauqua Auditorium in Boulder, Colorado, which is old auditorium from the late 1800s. And dream come true for Bonnie here.
Oh yeah, for all of us. It was incredible. I used to pretend that I was playing with an orchestra when I was like 5 years old. I was very little. So my mom and my sister came out from Oklahoma, where I'm from, to see that it was really happening, because that was definitely a long time dream come true, and they just did such a beautiful job. Everybody listened to each other really well. It was neat.
Brilliant.
It was cool to see the songs with so much dimension all of a sudden.
So did you start actually with a classical background as a child?
Yeah, I always appreciated it. I mean, I had Mozart CDs mostly that I bought when I was probably 12 or something, but for the most part, it's blues and jazz and rock and roll is my background. But I've done classical singing my whole life too, so. Yeah. And
has that experience in any way filtered into your live performances now? Has it made you look at reworking some of the songs that you do that you wouldn't have done the same way before having that experience with the orchestra?
There's a couple songs that come to mind where, I hear the instrumentation, take on a more modal character in a solo section, that was an idea of one of the orchestrations. Mm-hmm. Or, the way that we leave space in a certain number where before, it might have been more full. Mm-hmm. It's always consistently expansive, I'd say, our take on what is in the past of our repertoire and what's being built in modernly and, coming up. Mm-hmm. And the more and more we had those influences from interplaying with orchestras, and I think the more it will potentially influence.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that will then sort of seep into future songwriting?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've always imagined string sections and wind sections and stuff in a lot of the music. So for it to become even more of a reality, that doesn't just have to be something you hear in your head, is pretty exhilarating with the songs. And I feel like I've come to appreciate the space a little bit more too.
Yeah.
So the instruments really have an effect when they are coming in, and the space is really noticeable.
Just one final thing I'd like to ask you. We're talking at the end of a week which saw the loss of one of the greatest songwriters of the last 50 years, Pete Seeger. There's also his activism work. As musicians and also as committed environmentalists yourself, what do you feel is Pete Seeger's legacy?
Well, Dingo actually met him, so maybe you should introduce.
The breadth of his heart is tremendous. What he did for the music and what he did for society, in the States and then over for the world too, and just for people's rights, supporting what he believed in for the environment, for the Clearwater Campaign and the Hudson River in New York. Courageous humbleness, is what he brought to activism. Just the courage that he expressed in what he did throughout his whole career and his life, the way he lived. An amazing man.
Mm-hmm.
He gave you his hat when you first met him, right?
Yes, I spent time traveling with his grandson and his band, the Mammals, and so I did receive a banjo lesson, an African music banjo lesson from Pete, and Toshi made a wonderful stew. We were snowed in up in Beacon, New York, and he gave me a book on Barack Obama in 2004, and said that should take a look at this. Perhaps this will be of importance someday, before Barack was running for president. And then, also, gave me an old lumberjack hat. This is an amazing man, A lot of people are touched by his life and his passing, and his legacy is going to live on forever.
Yes. Thank you both very much for talking with me today. Every success for the rest of your dates in the UK, and every success for the new album as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.